This week, we're tracking two huge stories with major implications for Texas. Lawmakers search for answers about what went wrong in Uvalde.
Terrible decisions were made by the on-scene commander and should have never happened, plain and simple.
Testimony focuses blame on the school district's police chief, but is that the full picture? Why one senator is filing a lawsuit to reveal more evidence. First, the Supreme Court's decision on abortion changes the landscape in Texas, but there are more battles to come.
It's pretty clear that the courts are going to need to continue to be involved. This is not going to end.
We look at what's next for women in a post-Roe Texas.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Will Dupree, in for Josh Hinkle. The Supreme Court's opinion overturning abortion rights is already having a big effect in Texas. This week, we're taking a deeper dive into the impact of that decision. Daniel Marin looks closer at the landscape for Texas women facing unplanned pregnancies.
With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, many expect the so-called Texas trigger law to take effect in 30 days. But that's not exactly how it works. The law automatically bans most abortions in the state. According to Attorney General Ken Paxton, it becomes active 30 days after the Supreme Court issues an official judgment, not an opinion. And he says a judgment could take about a month.
To me, as a fundamental respect for human life, that's why I signed on to the trigger law.
Republican State Senator Paul Bettencourt of Houston was one of dozens of co-authors of the bill. He says there could be another holdup before it goes into effect.
There will be a tremendous amount of litigation from here out about the framework of this new decision. And I expect that we'll be right back waiting for more Supreme Court rulings next year at this time.
State Democrats say you can bet on legal challenges and voter mobilization.
In Texas in particular, we are working to make sure that we elect Beto O'Rourke, that we flip seats in the Texas legislature.
In the meantime, state leaders have pumped major money into the state's Alternatives to Abortion program. It offers counseling for mothers, parenting classes, job training, and clothing and formula. The state legislature approved $100 million for the program over the next 2 years, and you can see on this chart, funding has shot way up since 2006. These are the providers the state works with for that program. Last year, most of the money went to the Texas Pregnancy Care Network.
Texas lawmakers cleared the way for immediate action to stop most abortions in the state in anticipation of the Supreme Court's opinion. We spoke to Senator Bryan Hughes. The East Texas Republican was one of the leaders behind the state's trigger law.
You know, even without the trigger law, in 1973, when the Supreme Court in Roe versus Wade blocked enforcement of the Texas abortion laws, they didn't strike them from the books. They are still there. And in the heartbeat bill last session, we made a specific finding that those pre-Roe statutes are still alive. When that opinion came down, those laws are back in place. Of course, for the life of the mother or serious risk to the mother's health, abortions go forward. But for healthy babies and healthy moms, those little lives are being protected now in Texas. There are many district attorneys in Texas and around the country who have publicly stated, we will not enforce pro-life laws. Even though these guys are sworn to uphold the law, guys, men and women, they've said we're not going to enforce pro-life laws. So that'll have to be addressed. As you know, the heartbeat law has a civil remedy, and that might need to be expanded to go all the way through now that Roe versus Wade is gone. So you're going to see that happen. And again, look for more support, more help for those moms and for those babies. That's what I'll be working on next session.
With the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, many are wondering what laws Texas has on the books and how the state can handle helping women who become pregnant. For answers and some perspective, I talked to Elizabeth Sepper, a law professor at the University of Texas at Austin. What are the immediate effects to the access to abortion here in Texas?
So Texas has a number of criminal laws that will go into effect. There's a trigger ban, which comes into effect 30 days after the Supreme Court's decision and will criminalize virtually all abortions from the moment of fertilization. And so that's the widest sweeping, though there are several others as well.
Is this now a done deal, or could the court potentially revisit this decision at a later time?
For the court to overturn Dobbs, which overturns Roe, would require a significant change in the composition of the court, which would be difficult to predict within the next generation or more.
How much support is there in Texas to offer, resources and support for women who become pregnant and face a crisis situation?
Not much. The social safety net in the state of Texas is near the bottom of every state. We're in constant competition with Mississippi and Alabama for who can do it worse. So we have very high rates of maternal and infant mortality already. We've failed to extend Medicaid in ways that would ensure that people of reproductive age are healthy. At the moment that they become pregnant, we don't have pre-K or daycare that's subsidized in any meaningful way. So the social safety net isn't here, and we are going to see many more people who experience unwanted pregnancies and then end up having to carry them to term against their will. The Supreme Court's decision today says that it turns the issue back to democratic politics. But it's pretty clear that the courts are going to need to continue to be involved. This is not going to end. The Supreme Court is going to continue to see legal battles over abortion. And it's going to take the form of states like Texas trying to reach abortions in other states done for its residents. It's going to take place because states like New York are going to try to protect their providers from consequences around providing abortions. So the legal fight is not over. And so the real question is, where do we go from here?
All right. Thank you so much.
Making history as senators pass a bipartisan bill to address gun violence, why it could bring major changes, and how the landmark legislation is dividing Texans on Capitol Hill. Texas lawmakers ask what went wrong in Uvalde.
The things that didn't work were catastrophic failure. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Testimony focused blame on one man, how that is bringing backlash and calls for transparency.